Well, hello, hi. It is me, it is Asmo Tandidir, Khariandija, Internet, and Akastra, and Bakalau Yala. Mikey's, guys, first of all, why have I been at random mid work going, More, yeah, fro, more, Mikey's? And you gotta drag the Mikey's. So, hello, Mikey's. Hi, Chomas. Wanted to talk about what is this? Unfollowed, episode 1 and 2. I was avoiding talking about Lady Zamar because I just feel like she's endured a lot and I don't know what I would be contributing to this conversation, except it stays with me and it lingers and it's like I can't get rid of it. Then Joe's episode last week is like not worth a chat really because I'm like, why is Joe on here? Actually, why is Joe on here? Um, but then I'm like, what do I want to say around the Lady Zamar thing? Like, what do I really want to say? Because to me, it really just brought up the conversation of consent again, what we understand around that, what that looks like, how entitled men feel to our bodies, especially if they are in proximity to us or there've been certain activities in and around being around them and how they just go on to assume that it's like there's an assumption that there's a natural progression of things and this is the only way, right? We've been hanging out for this long. The natural way for this to go is here. I didn't want to make a lot of reference to the actual interview itself because it's not the interview itself that stayed with me, even though her story is compelling, right? It's the larger conversation. Only because I'm a woman who has felt this kind of pressure. She mentions that they weren't, there's a lot going on, and I understand the divide, right? Rape is a very, like, assault of this nature is a sensitive topic where having nuance sometimes teeters, like it bounces on victim blaming, it bounces on not believing the woman, and we're team believe and support the victim to the end until we prove otherwise because we know what happens, right, when you don't do that. And we've seen the norm is to not believe them. In fact, the norm is if a woman says this has happened to me, we go on to make that man the president of the country. That's our brand as a nation. So it's then a difficult chat for me because of like my stance and my politic around these kind of issues. But it's like I can't get it out of my mind. And maybe if I get it on camera, maybe I won't post it. But then maybe I'll understand what I want to say. Couple of things, right? We didn't really know these people were a couple until they were broken up, right? And then there were whispers of, but isn't he partnered? Doesn't he have a wife somewhere back home? You know how they do, right? They want to be Steve Biko so bad. And then a couple of weeks after the announcement of these people were together and they're broken up, he wheels out this woman onto the stage. She's a grin on her face. She's very happy to be paraded by this man who also just said a few weeks prior that he was cheating on her with this other superstar woman. But that doesn't matter. She's like just delighted to be like, introduced to the world as a humiliation ritual to this other woman. That's what the fuck that was. He was trying to embarrass Lady Zamar. He was trying to have us attack her and be like, ha ha ha, look at the side chick, or even not even say ha ha ha, berate her, right? The married women of the world that hate anybody that vaguely resembles what they think is a side chick while staying with their cheating ass husbands. Just amazing, just chef's kiss always with that. And that's what he was aiming to do. And then I think the conversation is then, does Lady Zamar come out to tell us her experience with this man and the violation if he doesn't initiate this humiliation ritual? To essentially, if you think about it, I feel like that was an attempt on his part to get her canceled, or at least to get her canceled by like her audience who may feel like they don't want to support somebody who was involved with a married man, right? We know what the repercussions look like when a woman does things like that. So there is no way that it wasn't. Why was he not like, wishing her up on the stages before this announcement of a relationship. To me, this behavior is the behavior of a man who was never going out and showing out his wife like here she is and stuff. And then he does it to try and spite the ex, right? After minimizing the relationship, the ones who are married, but it's not so serious. After minimizing the relationship with the person they're partnered with, and all the while messing with you, when you eventually break things off with them, they now try to put this person on a pedestal to be to suck it to you and shit. So he knew what he was doing. And as a result, everybody's calling her this. She then comes out and tells us that actually the nature of the relationship wasn't so kosher, right? I felt pressured into the relationship, and in fact, my first physical encounter with this man did not feel consensual to me, or just rather wasn't altogether. And I think she continued to then see him after this. And I think this is the part of a story that doesn't leave me, because I've done or been in a similar situation. And when I have chats with other women, I think we've all done it to a degree. I mentioned in my Femcell video that I had an on and off person I was hooking up with before I was celibate. And the nature of how that happened is rather interesting. My first encounter, and I would say my first couple of encounters, so 2, maybe 3 if I'm pushing it, right? But not really. It was the first handful, if you would like. The first one, I was so intoxicated, right? And I've said on here that I've made alcohol my coping mechanism to engage in these activities because of all the issues I have to mask and get out of my head just to try and be somewhat present. It's really, really difficult for me. But the first time it happened, that's not what was happening. We were just drinking, and I happened to drink excessively, and things happened, right? And I borderline blacked out because I didn't recall a lot of what happened. It came back to me days later, and I still don't have all the pieces, right? It happened. I remember telling a friend of mine. I remember I was not feeling good about it the next day. And that's layered, right? Those feelings of not feeling good about things that have happened, especially us as women, they layered. Yes, somebody may have taken advantage of you. Maybe you were both drunk to the same degree, but we weren't. We really weren't. And now maybe you regret it because it's all that shame of, the body count. I was much younger. You don't really like this person and you feel cheap, and maybe the person was partnered and maybe their partner, shit like that. And it's just, I remember just crying. I remember I cried for a while, like a couple of days, just trying to come to terms with what had happened, because I was like, how does this happen? And then the second time this person was trying to make it happen again, one of my mates kept stepping in, right? And then they did a conversation with me later down the line, explaining to me that I feel like this person only initiates when you're intoxicated, but they never initiate anything with you when you're sober, and you're around them all the time in your most sober state for you to consent properly, but they never initiate anything there. And the moment it seems like you're off your rockers and you're just, then all of a sudden they want to be all over you, and it makes me uncomfortable, right? And it's when I had to really sit and reckon with it. But the conversation I want to have with all of that is that I'm not sure if I misheard. It seems that the first encounter she says they'd been hanging out as a group, right? It was always in group settings or in pairs with other people. It was always a situation where they weren't alone. And in this instance, they had a gig somewhere in my province, I believe they say, and I'm in Limpopo. And she had surgery. She says she had like a breast reduction or something of that nature. And she was still healing, and she wasn't really supposed to like take part in these kind of things. And he came to her room, and he essentially, from having been around her so much, maybe just assumed that they're now dating and this is the natural progression of things. This is all allegedly, this is her telling of events, right? And he then just did what he did, and she just kind of lay there, or whatever it is that happened. And that was how it happened. But then I think she continued to still be in somewhat of a relationship with this person. And I think that might be confusing to people, but it's not. Like I said, I did this, right? The first few times with this person were so all over the place to me. I still can't all the way put into words how I really feel about that. But then I went on to engage with this person for over a stretch of a year, and then nothing, and then years later over a stretch of a year or something. I think so. I might be wrong. But I felt like I did that because it's already happened. I don't want to be messing with too many people. It's not like I don't have a natural liking to this person. Maybe I would have just wanted them to take a little bit more of care with me in the beginning. But I am still very confused about what happened, and still very confused about how I then go to deal with this person. And I'm not saying our stories mirror, because I'm actually not sure if she went on to consensually have a thing with this person for a stretch of a year after that incident. I don't know. I can't tell from the interview if that's what was said, right? But it doesn't leave me, because it makes me have to sit and reckon with the things that I've went through and how I make sense of those things, because I don't. I just push them to the back of my mind, and I move, and I'm like, it's not a thing. It's, don't overthink it. Don't think too much about it. It happened, and just move on with your life. But the truth of the matter is, men like to take things. Men like to feel like they won. The language we use around sex in particular is how we end up in these situations where men feel like, I've taken you on 3 dates, it means that I'm getting this, right? Sort of the weird kind of things we have in place. I've hung out with you. I said I like you. You giggle at my jokes. The natural progression is therefore then that I deserve this. I bought you this bracelet, right? I'm now gonna take this, right? And I don't think a lot of men enjoy. That's how they keep, the chase, and all that rubbish. Men actually enjoy, for their first encounter, and I don't give a shit what they're going to say, to feel like they are taking something from you. If that's not great, then what is it? The language, we're back to this, that we use around this activity is not very gentle and encouraging of consent. It's not, right? The word is conquer. The word is break your virginity, lose your virginity. It's like, it's not an activity that we're both participating in. If there's a conqueror, then there's a conquered, right? If there's a winner, then there's a loser. So this language and these kind of rules that we have around dating, and the entitlement to, after said action must come this, is how I feel we end up here. What the fuck? This is literally like, I don't know if it's a bee, but it's annoying me. We're back. Charlemagne the God, a few years ago, had to work so hard to clean up, saying that he feels that his first time, thinking it's a cute little joke. He said something along, I can't remember like exactly what was said, but basically that his first time with his wife, based off how we're now defining consent, must then have been assault, because blah blah blah, right? Even had to get this wife on the line to clear it up, because it snowballed after he said that. And the wife was like, no, that's not what happened, but like, we know she's whatever. She's married to him, right? But the point is, he's not the only man, right? The coercion, the borderline, you not being all the way comfortable. Men relish in feeling like they got us to do something we weren't all the way prepared to do with our bodies, or let them do things to our bodies that we weren't all the way prepared for. They love it. I don't actually care what they say. They can work that out at the next conference. They do. They do. They like when you're shy and timid. That's why the obsession with the virgins, and the obsessions with the body. Like they, oh, literally opened a window. I would have killed it if it was a fly, but it's a bee. We don't kill bees in my house. That's a thing that we don't do. So I had to listen to that. But that was my chat. That's what stayed with me. That's what weighed on me. That's why I couldn't let it go. But then I also feel that she, in part, she wants to admit that she knew that there was another person there, and at the same time diminish that person's role, maybe because that's how it was put to her. But it's also because she knows what it looks like. I find it hilarious in this country that people act like they don't know anybody who's been a side chick, or they've never been. Like, these men are just, nobody knows where the side chicks are. Nobody knows a side chick. Nobody is a side chick. But they're side chicks. They are side chicks. Like, I feel that's why she shoots herself in the foot by trying to clean it up and make like she didn't know about this other person. No, you if you did, then you did. If you say you didn't, because she says I didn't, and then she says I was made to believe it was somebody who was just taking care of his mother. In what capacity? And her caregiver as an employee of his, or their family that he pays to take care of their mom. I got a little bit confused there, because she's like, no, I knew there was somebody there, but I was led to believe that I just was getting a bit lost there. It is hard. There's certain things that are hard to claim, right? Having had an abortion is one of them. And sometimes you yourself aren't experiencing any real shame around it. You just don't want the shit that comes with the, how could you do that? Oh my God, it's murder. Like, you don't want to deal with the ignorance. And then there's also shit like having been a side chick at some point in your life, or allowing yourself to be, out of whatever reason. Nobody really wants to claim those things. We understand. So I see why she would try to distance herself from that. But it's not helping the look at all. But then again, if they wanna not support you, they won't support you. He's a cash cow, more so than her, right? He is a bigger name, more so than her, I would like to believe, right? He's more profitable. A lot more people stand to gain more from keeping him working and keeping him in good standing in industry versus her, I suppose. And that's how we get here. Every time I get my flow, that thing flies around. I literally open the windows. But that's how we get here. That's how we find ourselves in this situation. If he was a non-profitable somebody, he would have been hung out to dry, right? She came out with her allegations. A host of things started happening where he was losing. And at the slightest convenience for us to be like, okay, she's a liar, we took it. We took it because we so badly just wanted to be that, like, this man whom we love so much could not have done this because we enjoy him as a talent, right? Because we're still struggling to separate the man from the talent. I really wish us well with that one. Look at Robert Kelly. Look at Bill Cosby. Do you see what happens when you conflate the two? But anywho, that was my chat on that. It's load shedding, so I actually have to go bath. I thought I was going to sit down and record Joe at a go, but maybe I'll just run my bath, and then, because it's a whole situation, we need lights to have our water running. And then I'll come back, talk about Joe, and then go and bath. It's a better take. Okay, bye, Yella.